Is poverty ethical? The question of the ethics of poverty is not necessarily a matter of deciding whether poverty is right or wrong. The responsibility of care for others in regards to proper receipt of the necessities for life may or may not be as black and white as what is reminiscent of virtue or vice, but rather reliant upon the included party's outlook regarding such, as a result of historical or psychological factors, and can be assessed following an inquiry into qualities such as the following. Utility. Does it help the greatest amount of people avoid suffering as much as possible? Existentially. Does it assist in the individual living out his best destiny, and how does this help the individual? Pragmatically. Is it realistic or practical, and can anything reasonably be done? Here is a picture of German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, famous for his criticisms of ethics in relation to the church and his influence upon the more modern existentialist movement. Nietzsche asserts that in order for nobility to thrive, there must be slaves. Would this maxim not show us the damaging qualities of economic inequality? If there is a caste system, it is inevitable there be outcasts. People whose unique perspective would be beneficial to the whole of society but are instead left to waste away due to birthright. The current system awards certain virtues over others in aiding certain personality types to get ahead instead of rewarding individuals based on the merit of their hard work or contribution. No virtue should be embraced over any other in a fair and just society. This immediately indicates a form of bias. Even according to the self-centered ethical ideal of egoism as expressed by its proponents such as Ayn Rand, equal opportunity to achieve happiness for the individual is of the utmost importance. This is John Stuart Mill, the philosopher popular for his defense of utilitarianism. Aside from any arguments of the rightness or wrongness of monetary gain or depravity, we can suggest the complete nonsensicality of it in terms of the concept of utility. In the utilitarian view, members of society are to be working toward the goal of providing the most pleasure for the greatest amount of people. Utilitarians believe that all persons are moral equals and should be treated impartially. When one hears of the millions of empty homes denied the homeless because they simply do not have enough merit tickets or money, it just sounds wasteful, all in the name of sticking to some falsifiable system that only works for some and fails others. It has been reported that empty homes outnumber the homeless 6-1. William James was a proponent of pragmatism, which is summed up by Stanford as a rule for clarifying the contents of hypotheses by tracing their practical consequences. Basically, the worth of things depend upon the feelings we have towards them. James gets his philosophy across by offering the allegory of a man from another culture, represented as Jack, and his virtue that would be unacceptable from some observing culture, represented as Jill. He says, who are we to decide who Jack is allowed to love? Essentially, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. He goes on to exclaim, cannot we escape some of those hideous ancestral intolerances and cruelties and positive reversals of the truth? In a recent study conducted by the World Bank, it was suggested that indigenous people are among the poorest, bringing us to conclude that many modern human civilizations are imposing their values and way of life upon the land and all forms of life that existed in nature pre-modern times. It is not only hurting the native animals and plant life, but the native people who thrive off the plentiful resources of nature. Taking from the land equates to taking from the people. This is not just a situation specific to the Americas, but all parts of the world and all cultures. Having observed various differing ethical philosophies and their likely treatment of the issue of poverty, what conclusions can be drawn? We realize that some ethical theories may lead the asker to conclude that there is no basis for helping the poor at all, while still others would simply look for the practical use of such work and ask if it's beneficial for society as a whole. Whichever perspective one views it from, there are people in dire need without the means to resources due to lack thereof by design of the government they live under or near, stemming from its ethical principles. This being concluded, the realization of a solution to poverty would require at least a subconscious consideration of all applicable ethical philosophies, including those we have discussed in this presentation.